Hello and welcome to the Is It Fast podcast. I'm your host, Timo Albus Daly. Joining me today is another in a number of unique guests who have all recently competed together in the same off-road race, Rally Jameel. For those that don't know, this is an all-female rally that takes place once a year in the heart of Saudi Arabia and encourages women from all walks of life, not just racing, to come and try their hand at motorsport. Rosella Zilbermann is one of those individuals and comes to racing with another non-traditional background. We chatted a little about this when we caught up recently, as well as about the moment that it sunk in for Rosella that she was competing in a rally in the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert, how important an opportunity like this is for her and women globally, a very memorable moment with a camel, and much more. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi Rosella, thank you very much for being here today. First of all, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. And we're going to talk about the Rally Jameel today. That's obviously why we're here. But I have to go back to the start with everyone I talk to. And for you, I feel like this might be slightly different as it has been for all the other competitors. So I'm interested to see what first got you interested in motorsport.
So I currently live in Saudi. I live in Riyadh. I moved here 2.5 years ago, and one of my favorite hobbies and favorite pastimes here is driving in the desert. So I have met a really fantastic group of people and friends that have been my mentors and my teachers of dune driving in the desert. So I do this very regularly, as much as I can every weekend, go away. And so, driving in the desert 4x4 is just something that I loved so much. And actually, one of my close friends in our group, Eleanor, who has done Rally Jameel 3 times, and she's always come up on the podium, was the one who, got me first interested in it. And I thought it was just such a fantastic rally just for women in Saudi Arabia. Everyone always thinks that women in Saudi still can't drive. And here we go. We've got one of these rallies who takes you all around Saudi Arabia just for women. I think it's fantastic. And, I love discovering and traveling. So I just thought this rally it was incredible opportunity. And also the other amazing thing is that they allow anyone really to join, so you can submit to participate, and you don't need to have previous experience. Obviously, desert driving and being comfortable in a car is is definitely necessary and mandatory in a way, but I'm not a professional rally driver at all. I just have this passion and hobby, and I was able to participate, so I just found it very inclusive in that way.
Before you moved to Saudi Arabia, were you interested in racing at all, or was this very much a thing that came to the forefront when you moved over there?
No, I never thought of racing. Obviously, Italian Ferrari fan, have
Got to
done
have
loads.
those.
Did go-karting before, but no, never ever did I think I would be ever able to participate in a rally. No.
So you mentioned Eleanor there. Was that how you first heard about Rally Jameel, or was there something
Yeah.
before then, or was it just her introduction, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, it was her introduction. So she participated in the very first edition, and immediately from then, followed her adventure, followed her stories. And I just always thought, I want to do it next year. And then in the second edition, I wasn't able to find a navigator or another participant to rally with me. And now, third time round, I tried to get the message out there as early as possible. And that's where I met Donata. So Donata is also part of like our desert group, but she lives in Bahrain. So me and her hadn't really ever met, but she was very interested. And so through another mutual friend, we were able to sort of like discuss it much earlier in advance and plan. And, and finally we managed to agree that we would team up and race together, which was beautiful.
Now, you've read my mind. It's like you've got my questions in front of you, which for listeners, you don't actually have those. Because I was going to ask about your co-driver and see if you'd known each other beforehand at all, or if this was was the rally itself the first time you met in person? You obviously were talking online and all these sort of things beforehand, but was the rally the first time you actually physically met each other?
No, so we met a few times before that. So we met at sort of like a Christmas gathering, and she came purposely to a Saudi a desert camp out to meet up and discuss it. And then we met another time where I went to see her in Bahrain, and we kind of went helmet shopping, and we discussed, how we would approach the rally. And then so when we met at the rally itself, that was the third time that we met in person.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So good excuse for you to feed your love for travel as well. There, good excuse to go over to Bahrain and just have a little explore and, like you say, go helmet shopping. So it's not something necessarily you
Yeah.
think of for the main purpose
Yeah.
of going to Bahrain either.
Well, it's not too far from Riyadh, and I was already
Mm.
in Khobar for work, so it was only just another extra hour. So yeah, another chance to meet up.
Easy excuse, perfect. And then
Yeah.
the race itself. Tell me about it from your perspective. Was it easier than you thought? Was it more challenging than you thought? Were there moments where you were sitting in the car going, "What the hell am I doing here? What have I done?" What? Tell me everything.
So in a summary line, the race was absolutely amazing, and everything I expected from it, maybe more actually. It was really challenging, and we always thought the navigation part would be the super difficult one to really study. And of course Donata was actually brilliant. We did really well with the navigation, because in terms of sort of like hitting all the navigational milestones, we always reached the maximum result every day. What was really tricky and difficult was obviously the average speed challenges, and the different terrains that you would have during the day, and sort of like being aware of your surrounding and other cars. So there were very many elements to be wary about. So the preparation for all of this was, we tried our best. So navigation, Donata obviously studied a lot, and we also attended a training with Rally Jameel in Jeddah a couple weekends before, which was super, super, super helpful. We had a lot of the trainers and organizer who were really amazing, and they gave us really a lot of intel on how to approach a road book and different circumstances. But as I was saying, the real difficulty was sometimes the terrain that we were on, because you would go from extremely sandy to extremely rocky, and the average speed challenges, which each evening we would really prepare for, because we would get the road book the night before to study only. So sometimes we were up until sort of 2 a.m. trying to sort of like do the maths and calculations to approach these average speed challenges. And they were the really difficult ones. They were the ones that was absolute like mute silence, had to concentrate, really focus on each element.
Say with that as well, terrain in particular will impact the average speed challenge a lot, like you say, and the
Yeah,
theory will only take you so far there because you'll get to
yeah.
the stage then and think, oh, that's a lot worse than I was thinking potentially. And I know there were some aspects of the rally, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, where you were going over some of the same territory that they did in Dakar, and
Hmm.
rocks there from what we saw this year at the very least. They're not. I mean, there's never a nice rock, but they're not the nicer rocks that you have to deal with either in the terrain. So you really got a lot thrown at you there. It feels like.
Yeah, that's true. We never had an issue though. We never burst a tire. We never got stuck. I think the experience that sort of I've had, and also probably Donata in camping, like through the Saudi desert or the wadis, really prepared us for this. So whenever I saw a wadi or rocky terrains, I knew how to approach them. So those didn't really concern me. They were always a risk for a burst tire. You can never say never, obviously. But the trickiest parts were actually when you had other cars and other competitors who wanted to take over and maneuver around you. Those were probably the more challenging ones, because some of the other competitors were more ruthless than others. So it was really hard to predict how they were
Yeah.
gonna pass you or behave. Um, but yeah, some of the terrains were just really, really incredibly fun. No, it was a really good mix of terrains. Really, really good. Yeah.
Maybe it's just my random selection of drivers that I've been talking to, but somehow none of you got any punctures so far from how that's happened. And I'm just beginning to think that Sebastian Loeb took the bullet for all of you earlier on the Dakar with all of the ones he got. Maybe it was a helpful thing from him there. But I want to ask then, that was obviously a challenging thing to have the guy look the day before and you working late into the night, and then obviously the reality could be very different the next day. But you seemed, maybe in hindsight at the tour, it's been a little bit of time since you've done all this, but that you seem pretty calm about it all, and I feel like that was probably the approach you took in the car as well. Was there a particular moment that caught you off guard, shall we say, and was the most challenging moment for you? And if so, how did you get over that?
Well, I wouldn't say we were always calm. The start of the race was always the most nerve-wracking one. Um,
Why the
the
start
ones
for
that
you?
caught, sorry?
Why the start in particular for you?
Just because, before you start, you have obviously the liaison where you go from the hotel to the start line and you've got a certain time to get there. When you get there, then you quickly just have to sort of like make sure you've got enough fuel, deflate the tires, put the helmet on. So it depends how much time you have. And then you have to get in line and the card. It's just quite a lot of things that you need to systematically hit on the dot. So then when you go through the main gate and you start the stage, then that's when you sort of like get the focus on. So there's always a bit of nerves before the start. So then in terms of like stressful moments and moments that took you off guard, for me were mainly the average speed ones. And I'm speaking as a driver because you never knew what that leg entailed. And often during average speed challenges, you had other cars who wanted to pass you, and some were more aggressive than others. So those were actually the most nerve-wracking moments. Sometimes, before an average speed challenge, we would choose to stop and let other cars go. And sometimes that worked great so that you had no one in front and no one at the back, but sometimes that wasn't the case and we were all in a line. So you were all forced to go according to the car in front of you. And imagine if the car in front of you had a burst tire. We had cars that were not as high. We were driving a Fortuner that weren't as high as ours. So what if they didn't have the same luck and burst a tire? And then there were cars that for some reason were going much faster and they wanted to pass you and there was nowhere to move. So even though they were putting the request on the Stella, there was literally nowhere to go. And those were the bits that most sort of caught you off guard because you didn't know where you would be during that average speed challenge.
On the flip side of that, then, was there a moment that stood out to you for the most memorable part of the race itself? I'm thinking maybe for a good reason rather than a bad one.
So there were many, to be honest. The landscapes were phenomenal. There were places that, couldn't even dream. But one moment which was really, really magical is we stopped just for a moment, and by mistake we looked and we were next to this tree where this camel, the mom, had pretty much just given birth to a baby camel. It still had the umbilical cord and this little thing could barely stand up. It was just like so beautiful and we were so close to it. So this is just one anecdote of like the beauties, the nature, the wilderness that we were in. That
I'd like
was
to see the
so
probabilities
beautiful.
of that happening to you.
I'll send you a photo of this because it was just adorable. It was beautiful. I love camels as well, so it was just a
You definitely
golden
went to the right
moment.
place.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's definitely not an answer I get very often, if at all. I'll be honest with you. So that's definitely a way to stand
Yeah.
out. So you were saying about earlier that the riding community was a great opportunity because of all the kind of stigmas around driving and racing and women in Saudi Arabia and the wider region. Then I want to focus a bit more on that for a second. Why is this race so important then, in your opinion, in terms of having to combat that? I mean, some people listening to this might think this was the first year for this when it's been the third year. And
Yeah.
so it's good that it's getting bigger in some respects, but I want to get your take on all of that and how you see it being as a positive impact.
Well, it's very inclusive. You have women from all ages, all nationalities, and all sorts of backgrounds in a sport that, it's very hard to get into unless you have, sponsors or backing. And it's very inclusive, I find. And, you're not looked at in a different way if you're not a professional rally driver. And women in Saudi only started driving 5 years ago, and there's so many that are just so excited to be around, and they're like professional rally drivers. So it's really come a long way. So to me, this is the beauty of this rally, that it's really inclusive. And the organizers and the people who are around you are also, they're like a team, so you feel like you're part of a family. um, it's just really nice. It's very small, but at the same time, you've seen how many nationalities participate,
Hmm.
so it's not yet on a massive level, but you still feel like it's a small family team feeling. It's a really nice feeling to be involved.
And it's like you say, nationalities that if it wasn't for this race, the people that you're meeting there from all over the globe, you don't really know when or if you would have ever met those women
Right.
at any other point. And that just seems a little bit balmy that of all the places it's going to be the Saudi Arabian desert when you're doing a rally. But it's great at the same time, and you see a lot these days with initiatives being done to help young women from like a very young
Hmm.
age get into motorsport. But then you've got
Hmm.
the current generation, let's say, who you see some success in there, but there's a lot of other women around that who they would have loved to have the opportunities that the young girls starting out are having now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a great way to kind of counterbalance that of saying like, yeah, if you're really young and you're looking at it, then you're more than welcome. But also if you have been trying this for years and years and years, or you just discovered motorsport late and you want to have a go, you can't obviously go into these things, but we'll happily take you. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
nice way to balance things out a bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, you get to discover a country that hasn't really been discovered much. And what most people just probably think is sand, it's very different. You have
There
you
is a
have
lot of that there.
everything. Yeah. For sure there is, but it's not just sand. And it's a great way to sort of like travel and discover and have that, spirit of adventure.
No, definitely. Adventure definitely is the word that a lot of people have been using with this, and it
Yeah.
seems very hard to argue with that because I don't know how else I'd describe it, to be honest, either. It's kind of the race is part of it, but it's not almost secondary, it's just the way that you're having the adventure.
Yeah.
So, off the back of this, then, you said you wanted to do this last year and you were intrigued about it the first year. Third time lucky you
Mhm.
got there this time around. Do you want to go back next year? And do you have any other racing plans that you want to try and make happen?
So absolutely want to try again next year. I think obviously having had the experience this year, can hopefully try and aim for a higher position. This year we came in 23rd out of 55, and I think now we got comfortable. We know a bit more of the strategy. It would be great. So let's see if Donata also wants to do it again together next year. Other races, I don't know. I don't think there's other races that would take me right now as a sort of like non-professional, but let's see. For now, I remain passionate and still very dedicated to sort of like dune driving and discovering Saudi with my own 4x4 in my own time. But let's see.
Then, like you say, not a bad hobby to have in the meantime, anyway, to keep your wits
No.
about you and get some experience in that way. And
Yeah.
just going back slightly there with going back next year as being part of your plan, do you think then you'll be emulating some of the other drivers that were there this year and being a bit more ferocious and being a bit more competitive then?
Well, yes, 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 and no, because being ferocious and quick and aggressive, I don't know if it works as a strategy. It's about really preparation and studying that road book and finding a strategy for average speed. those are the things
That's the
to
bit you
work
really want
on.
to nail down, isn't it? I can tell that the moment we talk about average speed, it's really got under your skin, that one, I think.
Well, that's where you get the more points, because navigation, we worked it out. Like I said, Donata was really good, because in all the sort of like checkpoints, we got them all. We never lost any checkpoints during each of the stages, each of the days.
Mm.
So where you really get your points is the average speed challenges. So those are really where you can gain a lot of points, and so yes, so those are the ones where you really need to focus on,
My last question
because
for you.
if you get lost during the rally itself, when it's not an average speed challenge, you kind of have time to make up the time as long as you hit the milestone. So it's not the end of the world if you get lost, as long as you can still make it back in time within the sort of allocated time of your day. Um, so yeah, average speed is where you get the points, really.
That's going to be the focus for 2025. Got you.
Yeah.
My last question for you then is, who would you like to see competing in Rally Jameel next year? It can be just anyone that you know and you just want to call them out now and kind of throw the gauntlet down at them, or it can be someone who people might know.
Um, I don't have someone that I really want to see, but I think women should should from all backgrounds should watch this and feel that if they want to participate and give it a shot, no matter their age and their experience, that they are welcome. And it's a really great adventure. So there's a lot of professionals that are obviously joining, and it's great, and they're keeping us all on our toes. But there's also a lot of novices who, have a good a shot as anyone else.
I'll say 23rd isn't a bad starting point, and you definitely seem hungry to improve on that next year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on our first day, we did really great. We ranked 15th. So we were really good on that first day, but a lot of cars didn't do so well on the first day. They got stuck and they had a lot of delays. On the second day, we got some penalties, but the penalties were related to sort of like the car not being at the start or at the service point where it needed to be. So you learn a lot about penalties and penalties that other teams get as well. Um, so yeah, so definitely third day and fourth day is where we really understood more tactics and were more careful on other regulations. So we really needed more days to go back to the top.
Oh, you definitely got the classic racing driver mentality there of instead of just one more lap, you wanted one more day.
Yeah.
Oh, God, a better place to end that. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I want to thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time and looking forward to hopefully seeing you again before the rally next year, but we'll see about that. And at the very least, we'll see
Yeah.
you up there fighting for it in Rally Jameel next year.
Great. So thank you so much, and maybe you can come over and be part of the press team next year. Who knows?
Yeah, you're not getting me in one of the cars. I think it's, I'll stand at a safe distance and just watch. Thank you again to Rosella for taking the time to chat. Wishing her the best of luck for everything in 2024. Details of where you can find both Rosella and I on social media and everywhere else will be in the description of this episode, so do go and check that out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again soon.